special events, it's all included. In fact, during Roar and Soar, we'll have airplanes set up out here. You can actually get in the cockpits. For typical customers, they'll come in and have to pay extra money to sit in them. But if you're an annual pass holder, you...
Why I'm here.
You know, on a hot day, that's the best place to be. It's right behind a propeller-driven airplane. Only one drawback, that's the exhaust. All right, now Mr. Dave Dudley is our pilot today. Dave is one of the full-time employees here at Fantasy of Flight in our aircraft department. He's been flying airplanes for well over 40 years. Lots of different airplanes on his in his logbook. Dave is a former crew chief on C-130s with the Air Force. And he knows what he's doing. This is one of his favorite airplanes. After the flight of the day, we're going to have our restoration shop tour about 2:15. And we'll meet right out here behind the Ford Tri-Motor, this big white airplane. Okay, here goes Dave. All right, the tail is up. All right, there he goes. Now, as I said before, this is a training airplane. It was used with the French Armed Forces. It's a French-designed airplane, actually built in Belgium. Very good two-place training airplane for the French Armed Forces. It's powered by a 140 horsepower Renault engine. It's a very simple airplane in design. But take a look at the wings. See how they're swept back just a little bit? And one thing really unusual about this airplane is when it gets down here in Hartson, you'll get to take a close look at it. One of the more unusual things about it is the fact that it has ailerons on all of the wings, both upper and lower. Most biplanes, or a lot of biplanes, let's say, only have ailerons either on the top or the bottom wing. And that's one of the reasons it's such an aerobatic airplane to fly. Back in the 1960s, there was a British aerobatic team called the Rothmans. Now the Rothmans needed to choose an airplane that they wanted to use for their team. And they chose the Norde Stampe. That's what this airplane's called, the Norde Stampe. The British chose a French airplane. Isn't that amazing? And it was a great airplane for what they called a... In fact, this airplane can actually do an outside loop. Y'all know what an outside loop is? The airplane's flying along this way, and it dives through the ground, and just keeps going around this way in a loop. And it comes back up the other side. Only they did it with the Norde Stampe, and all the airplanes were tied together with ribbons. 4 airplanes, line abreast, and they would do an outside loop together. Very tricky maneuver. I just think he's having way too much fun up there, don't you? We were just discussing this before the flight, too, that this airplane, but the Norde Stampe was also quite a movie star. Airplanes like this were used in a lot of movies about World War I, even though it was a war. Airplanes like this were used in a lot of movies about World War I, even though it was a World War II airplane. This airplane was built in 1945. Well, with all the fun he's having, I'm really glad I only gave him a gallon and a half of gas today. I don't think he's ever finished gas. There's only about 700 of these airplanes ever built. And there's very few left in the world today. A number of years ago, Mr. Kermit Weeks, who's the owner of Fantasy of Flight, was able to purchase most of that Tall Man's collection in California. We have a lot of airplanes here that came from that collection, including this one. If you take our 215 restoration shop here, in there we have an airplane that's called a Stinson L1 Vigilance. It's a World War II observation airplane, which also came from the Tall Man's collection. It's currently being restored. It was an airplane they used. They would mount a camera in the back of it. They would film a lot of aerial sequences for movies. So we get to see that airplane in the restoration shop. The restoration shop is the next building over there. See down there with the red and white, looks like a barber pole? Yeah, we'll meet right out here behind this Ford Trimotor and just walk over there and take a look at those airplanes that are being restored. We also have in there a Seversky P-35A, which is a mid-1930s pursuit airplane. We also have a Grumman F6F Hellcat in there, as well as a Lockheed P-38 Lightning. Now, they're not all active. Ready to do it. 3-point landing there. Come on. Not 2-point landing, but it's very, very smooth. You notice all of our runways here are grass. Isn't that interesting? You would think a place this big that has a lot of big airplanes that we'd have paved runways out here, but no, we have everything grass. Because a lot of the airplanes we fly are early flight airplanes, and they don't have any brakes. Free to ask him any questions. He'll be happy to answer questions about himself, Fantasy of Flight, or the airplane that he's flying. He'll probably tell you it's one of his favorite airplanes to fly. Notice he's sitting in the rear cockpit. They do that because of center of balance issues. They don't like to fly from the front because it sometimes throws the center of balance of the airplane off. The airplane is all wood construction. The wings and fuselage are both wood, and it's fabric covered with cotton fabric. Okay, let's hear it for Dave Dudley and the Norde Stampe.